This is the summary for chapters 1 through 4 of To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. So let's start off with chapter 1. So in chapter 1 of To Kill a Mockingbird, it starts off with Scout. We get introduced to the narrator, and we pretty much the whole book is a very long flashback of the past, of how Jem broke his arm. Scout provides a brief introduction of the town of Maycomb, Alabama, and her family, friends, and neighbors. The story starts with the first summer that Scout and Jem meet Dill. Dill gets Jem's respect because Dill has stories. He's a really good storyteller, and he's kind of a good liar. He likes to lie, and we'll learn a little bit more about that later in the novel. We learn also about the spooky stories about Boo Radley, which causes Dill to dare Jem to touch Boo's house. And he does, and after he does and gets back to the sidewalk, they notice that something stirs in the home. That's pretty much chapter 1. Chapter 2 of To Kill a Mockingbird is we get some of Scout's first grade experience. And unfortunately, it's not a good one. Miss Caroline Fisher discourages Scout and looks down at her because she can read and write. And she tries to say that her dad doesn't know how to teach Scout, so she needs to stop reading and stop writing. So they already get off on the wrong foot, and also she also happens to give her teacher advice about Walter Cunningham, one of the students that doesn't have lunch money, and the poor thing, Scout trying to kind of inform Miss Fisher about Maycomb's history of families, it comes across as she's trying to take over the classroom and take control, and that's not something that Miss Caroline Fisher is about. So she gets disciplined in front of the class, and it really upsets Scout and gives to where she wants to beat Walter up, which that actually takes us into chapter 3. Chapter 3 starts with Scout fighting with Walter, and Jem actually stops her because Walter's dad is actually friends with Atticus, and Jem knows that that his dad and Walter's dad are close friends, so there's no need to fight at all. So Jem invites him over for for dinner, and some funny things happen in that specific part of this chapter where Walter pours molasses syrup all over his vegetables and meat, and Calpurnia pretty much disciplines Scout for being so rude to Walter, who's a guest in their home. Another major point in this chapter is we get introduced to Burris Yule. He is one of the sons of Mr. Yule. We know that Yule, that family name, is actually connected to Jem's broken arm. So we find that Mr. Yule's son, Burris, has cooties, which is lice, and he only attends school once a year. And we learn a lot about how Mr. Yule spends his money on whiskey, and he doesn't take care of his kids. He kind of sleeps around. He's kind of the town drunk. So we already know that the Yule family doesn't have a good name in Maycomb. Scout then gets advice from her dad that we can't judge people based on appearance, that we need to see life and actually crawl in their skin and really, in a sense, to see life from their point of view, their perspective. And it's actually a really, really important quote that is listed towards the end of this chapter. Chapter 4, there's a lot that goes on in this chapter. Scout gets released a little earlier than Jem, and she begins to find things in the knothole in the Radley tree. The first item they find is some gum, or she finds. She eats it and gets scolded by Jem to never eat gum that she doesn't know where it came from. And they later find 2 shiny pennies. Dill then later arrives because summer has started, and they play a game called Boo Radley. And they basically reenact the part where Boo stabs his dad with scissors, and Atticus actually finds them doing this, and he tells them not to play this game. And after that, Scout is reminded that she remembers hearing a low laugh when she gets stranded from the tire for being pushed too fast when she was in the tire, and she remembers hearing a very low laugh, which is kind of creepy because that tells us that someone in the Radley home is watching the kids. So enjoy reading chapters 1 through 4 of To Kill a Mockingbird, and we will continue later this week.